My name is Olivia. I'm 39 years old, and for most of my adult life I've been cautious, reserved even with how I lived and loved. That changed when I met Adam. Adam is 45, charming, quiet, and deeply thoughtful. He had lost his wife 5 years before we met. His son Jack was only 19 at the time. When I came into Adam's life, I wasn't just marrying a man. I was stepping into a household that still held the quiet echoes of grief and unspoken memories. Jack is now 22, tall, striking, a mix of his father's quiet demeanor and his own restless energy. From the beginning, Jack and I got along well. But I always knew I was walking a delicate line between being his father's wife and someone who was trying not to disrupt the fragile peace he had built for himself. When I married Adam, I thought I was choosing stability. My first marriage was a disaster. A whirlwind of emotions, fights, and unfulfilled promises. Adam was different. Calm, steady, predictable. In the beginning, I found comfort in that. But as time passed, I began to feel the emptiness that comes from living with someone who's more of a companion than a lover. It wasn't Adam's fault. He worked hard to provide for us, to make sure I never wanted for anything. But the emotional connection we had once shared seemed to be slipping away, replaced by silence and routine. Jack, Adam's son from his first marriage, moved in with us a year ago. He had dropped out of college to take a break, he said. I didn't know Jack well at the time. He was just a young man in his 20s, still finding his way. But there was something about him. Something that lingered in the air whenever he was around. Jack was charming, witty, and had a way of seeing the world that made me feel both young and alive. He wasn't the boy I remembered. He had grown into someone I found myself talking to more and more. There was an unspoken tension between us that neither of us acknowledged, yet it was always there. The first time I felt the shift, I didn't know how to react. It was a simple thing, really. Jack had asked me to help him with a recipe for dinner one evening. As we worked side by side in the kitchen, I noticed how his eyes lingered a little too long when they met mine. He smiled in a way that made my pulse quicken, and it wasn't just a polite smile. It was something deeper. But I brushed it off, telling myself I was imagining things. Later that night, Adam was at a business dinner. Jack and I were sitting together in the living room watching a movie. Halfway through, I felt Jack's hand brush against mine. It was brief, but it sent a shockwave through me. I pulled my hand back, my heart racing. Sorry, Jack said quickly, his voice low. I didn't mean to. I wasn't thinking. But his words didn't match the look in his eyes. They were full of something I couldn't name. Was it guilt? Desire? I didn't know, and I didn't want to know. I told myself it was just a slip, an accident. But as I lay in bed that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change. A few days later, Adam went away on a business trip. It wasn't the first time he had to travel for work, but this time, something felt different. He was gone for the entire weekend, and Jack and I found ourselves alone in the house. I told myself I wouldn't let the tension grow. I would ignore the way his presence made me feel, and I would focus on the quiet, simple life I had built with Adam. But then Jack surprised me. It was Saturday evening when he knocked on my bedroom door. He had a tray in his hands, a small candle flickering in the middle. I thought you might want some company, he said softly. I wasn't sure how to respond. I had never imagined Jack would do something like this. He set the tray on the bedside table and sat down on the edge of the bed. Just some wine and dinner, he said, his voice gentle. I know you've been feeling off lately. I smiled, trying to dismiss the unease that settled in my chest. You're thoughtful, Jack. Thank you. But as I looked at him, something about his demeanor was different. There was an intensity in his gaze that made me uncomfortable, yet it also made me feel seen in a way I hadn't in years. His eyes were soft but determined. He wasn't just looking at me as his stepmother. He was looking at me as a woman. And for the first time in a long while, I felt desired. After dinner we sat in silence, sipping wine. The air between us was thick with unspoken words. Then Jack spoke. "Olivia," he said, his voice steady but low. "I know this isn't easy to say. And I know it might sound crazy, but I have to say it. I don't want to hide it anymore." I looked at him, unsure of what he meant. "What are you talking about?" "I've been thinking about you," he admitted, his eyes never leaving mine. "A lot. In ways I shouldn't be." My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to stop him. I wanted to tell him it was wrong, that this could never happen. But the words stuck in my throat. I couldn't speak. The truth was, I had been feeling something too, something I couldn't deny. "I don't want to hurt you," Jack continued. "I don't want to do anything that'll mess up your life with Adam. But I felt this connection between us. It's not just in my head. I know you feel it too." His words hung in the air, heavy and dangerous. Part of me wanted to tell him it was a mistake. Part of me wanted to shut the door and run far away from this moment. But the other part, the part that had been starved for affection, for connection, felt drawn to him in a way I couldn't explain. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, torn between loyalty and desire. My heart was racing, my mind spinning in circles. Jack's confession had opened a door I wasn't sure I wanted to walk through, but I wasn't sure I could close it either. I didn't hear Jack leave the next morning. I went downstairs to find a note on the kitchen counter. "I never meant to hurt you. I just had to tell you how I felt. I'll always respect you, but I'll always wonder what could have been." It was a simple message, but it carried a weight I couldn't escape. Jack left the house for good a few days later. Adam came home and everything seemed normal again. But inside I was changed. I couldn't erase the emotions that had stirred between Jack and me. And I knew deep down, that part of me would always carry that unspoken connection. Adam never knew the full story. I never told him what had happened, and Jack never mentioned it again. Our lives returned to their quiet routine, but the air between us was forever different. Jack was gone, and Adam never questioned where he went or why. But I wasn't the same. I had crossed a line, even if I hadn't physically given in. The emotional connection was something deeper, something that left a scar on my heart. Have you ever faced a situation where emotional boundaries blurred? Where desire conflicted with loyalty, and where doing the right thing was the hardest choice? Share your thoughts below. Subscribe to Veiled Desires for more raw and real-life stories about love, temptation, and the crossroads we all face.